So how are you feeling about the economy these days? Today, the head of the Bank of Canada said he's feeling better. But does that mean you should too? Mark Carney's optimism is tempered by some caveats. A couple of them, the high dollar and the price of oil, you can't do much about. But another you definitely can. Havard Gould has the story for us tonight. Havard.
Peter, the bank still sees plenty of risks and one unusual problem. At the pump, Canadians are paying a lot more, but by the barrel, Canadian crude is collecting a lot less these days. High energy prices hurt here.
The gas is terrible. The price of the gas keeps going up.
Ridiculous. Just plain ridiculous. Well, look, $1.36 for premium, that's not right.
Canada is an oil exporting nation, however, so high oil prices up to a point normally boost the overall economy. But the Bank of Canada says since the new year, there's been a glut of oil at facilities in the U.S. Midwest, something that is forcing Canadian crude shipped there to be sold at a substantial discount. Meaning the pains at the pump are now outweighing the gains for what's coming out of the ground.
Well, if you think about Western Canada producing almost 3 million barrels a day, on average, we're looking at discounts that have been as wide as $30 a barrel. So, on a daily basis, we're talking about, $90 million a day of lost revenue for the industry.
It's not the biggest concern for the governor of the Bank of Canada. Mark Carney says that's still the record amount of debt Canadians hold. Debt he expects to keep rising.
Some Canadian households are becoming overstretched, and Canadian households as a whole are being overstretched, which creates risk for the economy.
Some experts argue most Canadians can manage their debts, often backed by solid assets like houses. But even with strong hints interest rates may rise, Canadians appear to be ignoring the bank's repeated warnings to pay down debt.
Well, to a certain degree, I believe they are tuning it out. I mean, Canadians and people in general are notorious for looking at the glass half full or pretending things aren't happening.
The Bank of Canada is definitely becoming more upbeat about the economy, but the risks still include a possible crisis in Spain or a slowdown in China, and even rising gasoline prices in the U.S., something the bank says could stall growth on both sides of the border. Peter?
All right, Havard, thanks very much. Havard Gould. Well, Amanda Lang is always a good person to bring in at times like this. You thought, actually, that Mark Carney was more upbeat than we've heard him in a long time.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty optimistic little report. I mean, for one thing, as Havard knows, they're looking for growth, and the growth is going to be driven by the private sector, which is what you want to see. That's you and me, the consumer. They are, though, noting inflation is on the way, and that means that the likelihood of interest rates going up just got better. Probably, possibly, as soon as this summer. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to be a 1%, a giant move. It could be 1/4%, 25 basis points, just enough to remind the indebted to pull in their debt just a bit.
There's been another report bouncing around in the last few days, and it's been about Mark Carney, that he might be going to the Bank of England.
Mervyn King's term is up, and there was a report in the Financial Times. Now, where there's smoke, there's probably some kind of musings going on. Both the Bank of England and Carney have confirmed that there's no official approach that's been made. Does that mean, though, that there isn't some sort of back channel negotiating going on? We don't know yet. What I will say is that this looked a lot like a leak. It looked like the kind of thing you float to see whether there's a lot of positive reaction to help the Carney cause or some negative reaction to put the kibosh on it. So we don't know where the leak came from. Time will tell to see whether or not there's a next step to this. What it does point to, Peter, is remember, the Bank of England is the most powerful in the world. London is still the global capital center. This points to Mark Carney's growing influence. That influence is just good for Canada.
And no doubt that he's got that influence internationally these days. All right, Amanda, thanks very much.
Thanks.